Welcome to the Strong Friend Podcast. We're here, you don't gotta be. I'm your host, Myko Glaze. So sit back, relax, and let's talk. What's up, everybody? It's Myko Glaze, and welcome to episode 6 of Strong Friend Podcast. Well, you guys, we made it 6 episodes in, and I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I'm trying to stay prepared and keep the episodes rolling. So I decided that I'll do them at the top of the week, which will be like Monday and Tuesday they'll release, and then probably Thursday and Friday they'll release. That way you can make it through the weekend and or have that day in between to kind of catch up. So I'm pacing myself. I hope you're pacing yourself, and we just all gonna be on the same pace, all in the same groove of things. Okay. So yeah, continue to thank you for the response to this content. I, I'm always so amazed when people care what I have to say, but I'm glad you care what I have to say because I care how you feel. Um, yeah, as always, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share the content. You know, if you think it's valuable for some other people, and let's get some momentum going here. But outside of that, again, welcome to episode 6 of Strong Friend Podcast. I'm gonna call this episode "Good Grief," and the title is kind of obvious, but good grief. One of the things that inspired this episode is because right now the whole Black community is experiencing the same loss, and the reactions that I have witnessed to the death of Malcolm Jamal Warner, it touches me and it makes me think about, like, I wish I leave a legacy like that. I wish I leave behind a whole world of people who see me as relatable, or see me as a brother, or see me as a guide on how to do things. I grew up on Malcolm Jamal Warner, but I'm a little bit younger than, like, his specific role having a humongous impact on me, because by the time I got older, like, Fresh Prince came out, so like I was watching Will Smith stuff. So either way it goes, I'm thankful for Malcolm Jamal Warner for being the example to the world and being a light. I thank him for his imperfections as well as his perfections, because those things shaped the man that we got to see, the man that got to create the things that inspired us the most by him and from him. And so at the beginning of this episode, I just would like to speak his name in a very positive manner, and we honor him as he is an ancestor now. And yeah, so Ashe. All right, let's get into this subject. Outside of grieving with the entire Black community the past couple of weeks, I'm grieving in my inner circle with people. I'm grieving in my life alone. I said it in episode 2. I lost my best friend, and that brought a lot of. It's taken a while for me to cope in the way that I can function. I'm pretty good with grieving, like, especially privately. I don't believe in, like, communal grief. Like, we're all just sad, and my relationship with death is a lot different than a lot of people. But this has had me for 2, almost 3 years sitting in my humanity entirely, as far as how much I care about people and what it looks like to lose somebody that you care about or someone that was one of your people who cared about you. This podcast is inspired by me losing my strong friend. But me being a strong friend, we were each other's strong friend, and that is a very rare find in the world. So, um, no, I'm not gonna sit here for 2 hours and grieve about him. But life after his death definitely brought some things for me to question, some things for me to ponder, some things for me to experience that maybe we can share with each other. And so, as always, I have my three thought provoking questions and things um, that I want to explore with you. And maybe you can relate. And maybe you can't, but you'll understand someone else better. Either way it goes, I want to just cover this episode with a spirit and an energy of empathy and sympathy, and just to recognize that loss isn't an easy experience, and witnessing someone lose is probably just as bad, especially when you're in a position where you don't understand what to do or you can't fix it, because that's a part of grief. Grief isn't just happening within you, it's happening around you because you're carrying it. You're engaging with people differently than they would be used to. So I just want to make sure we put the covering of love and empathy over this episode. Um, that way we walk away with the proper feelings, if you will. Okay. The first question on my handy dandy paper is, do you allow yourself space to grieve? Why or why not? And if so, how? I'll let you think about that for a second, but I'll go ahead and give Myko's take. Um, so I do allow myself space to grieve. I learned that I can't control grief. I used to be so stern and sturdy and controlled and strong in spirit, if you will, that it would feel like to people that I don't allow myself space to grieve, I just have a different face. But I do. I allow myself the hour that it takes to emote or the time that it takes to think. This morning was a great morning for me to ponder this episode because it was one of those mornings where I was, my friend was on my heart very heavy. 10 o'clock is the hour that gets weird for me for some reason. But I allow myself space to grieve because I don't want to be unhealthy. And what I mean by unhealthy is both like if you hold it in, it could make you a little bit bitter with life and with spirit, with God, sometimes even with people. I know that during my grief process, I've had to process a few things. I've never been angry about my friend passing away. That has never been where anger has rested for me with that. I've been angry with people around me. Not everybody, but people around me, because I have friends who I have shown up for, held space for, supported in ways that I feel like may or may not have neglected that hurt and the depth of that hurt and that pain. And for a second, it made me very, very, very angry with a few people. Um, I had to come to grips with that. And how I came to grips with that was assuming my responsibility, um, understanding where it's my fault. And I'm not saying like, oh, I blame myself for them not showing up for me, but I did choose them, you know. But also, uh, I show up for people as the strong friend. I show up for people in a lot of instances where I got it together and I'm helping you get your stuff together. I'm being a support to you or being an ear for you or a sounding board for you. That there were people in my life who didn't know how to see me in that state. So it shut them down towards me, or, you know, I work with a lot of problem solvers in the world on a personal level and professional level. Some people just didn't know how to solve that problem for me. So they withdrew from me. That hurt. If you're one of those people and you're listening and you think that happened, it hurt. But I forgive it because I did such a good job being strong and being able to help people through their things that they didn't know how to help me in my thing. And, you know, that in giving myself space to grieve, I have to understand how I grieved. And I've been grieving very, very hard. And some people already aren't good with emotions, and I'm an emoter. I don't care. I'm a Cancer. I'm emotional. But they didn't know how to handle me in those emotions. And it's not their fault that they didn't know how to handle me in those emotions. And they didn't know how to show up for me in those emotions. Because I never expressed that those existed within me. So, but you know, when people would say, "What do you need?" I would just say, "I don't know." You know, Tim never died before, so I don't know. Because I just honestly didn't know. And, you know, I forgive that. But I do provide myself space to grieve, by allowing it to happen when it was happening. I tried recently to like work a formal job in the morning to distract myself from that being a hard time of day for me. And at some point, I realized that I was just grieving in public and couldn't say anything, or sitting there with a lump in my throat at 10 o'clock in the morning, like ready to just melt down. One day I looked at the booking schedule and everybody on there's name was Tim. And I was like, oh God, this is crazy. I was so dizzy. Uh, but I endured it. I overcame it. It was something that I needed to try. Uh, and when it stopped working for me, I stopped working it in a way. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But yeah, I allow myself space. I try not to run. I try not to hide. And, you know, they say grief is what it looks like when you love somebody while they're here. So that is what it is. All right. Take a deep breath. We're going to go to question number 2. What are some good and bad things about grieving to you? Okay, I'll give my good list because I always want to lead with goodness. I understand, even, you know, like without my best friend passing away, I've lost my grandparents, I've lost aunts and uncles, and various and sundry of people that I've loved and admired and adored and all of that. I learned that In grieving people, you would take a survey of memories and instances in life that you've had with these people, and you get to see how much good in hindsight you've had with people. Like, you get to really think about the moments, like, in order to capture the feeling of them, you get to revisit those moments in your head and in your heart. And the good typically outweighs the bad. And so to walk in those things is very it, it's a great feeling. It's a really great feeling. And while people are in your face, you never think about remembering the good times that you had with them. And nobody can front, like, we're human, we're in the moment, right? But when the moment is gone, and you're never going to get that moment back, the moment that you had means a hell of a lot more, and it feels a hell of a lot better. If it's a sunny day, you feel that sun shining on your body to remember that person in that moment entirely, way differently than just having a casual memory sitting on the couch with them. you know um you get to reach a new level of love and adoration for the person that you've lost, for the person that you're grieving, because you take that survey. And hopefully, for real, you feel like you graduate in some way spiritually once you lose somebody, because you're then charged with carrying on all of the energy that they left behind, that they placed inside of you, all of the songs that are good that other people need to hear, that they allowed you to hear. Make sure you let somebody hear that thing. The good advice, you'll hear me mention things that my grandparents have told me as long as this podcast is running, um, because that's their legacy. You're torched with their legacy. And so, one of the good things about grieving someone properly is you never forget that, and you always do it, and you always assume that responsibility. That makes me feel good. I'm a lot more patient after losing my best friend, because he was the most patient person I ever met in my life, and I owe it to the world to at least keep that going. That was one of his greatest attributes, the way he saw all sides of things and how patient he was. So I made a vow to myself to move forward in that way, like, you know, make that one of my characteristics, because that was the best characteristic he had, and the world doesn't have that anymore in him. So for me, that's a part of his legacy, and I want that to breathe and pollinate and become just a mentality that anybody that I have to love, all I ask is that you pay that forward and you love somebody else the way that I love you, and that's important. Okay, but that's my good in grief. Being able to have those memories come up and feel those feelings again that you probably never would have even remembered if they were sitting next to you. So you get to exist in those moments, and also to be carrying the torch of their legacy and being able to send that somewhere where it's going to continue to live and it's going to be valuable to someone else. Things they said, things they enjoyed, things that they lived by. So yeah, that's my good. The bad about grieving, to me, and you don't have to agree with anything that I'm saying. These things that I'm saying are not, this isn't a dissertation. This is just me giving sound, solid commentary and advice in my way. Okay. So, the bad of grieving is the loss. the literal loss. Like, in order to hit a point of grief, you have to lose something. And it's not just people. Sometimes it's jobs, sometimes it's stuff, sometimes it's our pets. Sometimes it's a life that you used to live. You could even be grieving that, a moment in time. The actual loss of having it does not feel good. It's uncomfortable. It makes you paranoid. It's scary, because it looked one way. One day you had your mother and or grandmother, and the next day you don't. One day you're calling your father on the phone or your brother on the phone, and the next day you can't. Everything changes in a moment. And a loss that devastated you in the moment could actually continue to devastate you. Sometimes, if you're anybody like me who knows how to live in the moment, it's happening over and over and over again because you're trying to enjoy life. You're moving forward, but then there's something that makes you realize, damn, this person's not here for this, or damn, this person will never get to experience this. This would have been something really fire. For me, I'm not triggered every time, but I'm so triggered when I have to perform now. I love performing. That is I love being on stage and stuff. But it's a little triggering right before because every time I performed in the 20 years of our friendship, Tim was in the audience with his hand over the microphone on the camera, but I got some footage, you know what I mean? He loved going to shows and doing that stuff, so I know that he's not going to be there physically. And that reminds me of the loss of, um, you know, family gatherings. As far as like losing my aunts and uncles, there aren't many of us left. So the obvious holes are there. And I recognize them a lot more. So that's a little uncomfortable for me. That's one of the main bad parts about having to grieve someone or something. You recognize that loss over and over and over again. And if it's especially people that you meet on the other side of losing, they'll never understand because they didn't see what the devastation looked like when it happened. So I find myself having to explain to people like, hey, I'm a little different. Or having to reintroduce how I feel to people. I'm a little different now because of this. So, I got to get handled a little bit differently. And you got to be okay with that because you do want to create spaces where you can go that are safe and that you feel good in, even though you've lost something or someone. So, yeah, it's okay to say, hey, I'm not having a good day or I'm not having a good time at life right now. I'm just trying to be here. So I need to be handled this way. But yeah, loss is loss. And listen, I empathize with you. I sympathize with you. I care. And I just want you to continue to live and exist until it gets better and less frequent. And when it's too much, take yourself away from it for a while and then go back and try it again. I encourage you to always try it again because you'll get better. Time does heal things. And one day you're going to realize that that person probably wants you to live. They probably want you to dance. Funny story. Our favorite entertainer between Tim and I is Pink. And the week that he passed away, she released her album. Um, and the first single was Never Gonna Not Dance Again. And I laughed so hard on my way to go to where his parents was listening to that, because why the hell not this be the theme song for it all? You know, I'm never gonna not dance again because that boy was gonna dance. I'm never gonna not sing again because that boy was gonna sing off key, no rhythm, but there was joy, there was intention, and there was some beauty in that. So, you know, I'm learning to handle the moments where I realize that I've lost differently. And I encourage you to try that. It's not easy, but practice makes perfect with the perfect practice. And when you practice perfection, got it? All right. So this next question is deep and it's personal. You know, a lot of these topics that I'm choosing, they're based on discussions that I've had. And comes from my self-talk. This is probably the most important thing that you will hear on this episode, because it's a perspective that you'll probably never hear again anywhere else. All right. Do you know the difference between grieving and obsessing? Do you know the difference between grieving and obsessing? Let's unpack that, okay? Um, I had a conversation with my friend and about this subject, and they are experiencing heavy loss and then probably heavy grief. But when I tell you my friend is a strong friend, my friend is a strong friend. So my friend that's a strong friend, I had to say, I'm a little worried about how up you've been. Not that I want you to be down, but I'm just want to make sure that you're having that moment and that space for that moment. And if I need to do something better to facilitate it for you, that way you just have it. Like I've always been worried about, should I be doing more, or show, just what could I do to help you be genuine in your emotion? Because we don't come from a society or a culture where we get the proper mourning period. You know, there are cultures where you have to wear a certain color for a while so that people understand how to treat you. You know, your mourning, your veil is black, or whatever that may be, whatever the culture may be. In old black culture, they would start a meal train at your house, and then it would last past the burial, because it's after the person's gone that you're grieving the hardest. We don't come from a society where we're doing those things anymore. And so I just wanted to make sure I checked in with my friend about grief and about that, about his specific grief, not ours, just his. Um, because rarely is the space exclusive. And I'm always with my people. This is your space. This is your moment. We don't have to trauma bond. I got my things, but we'll talk about them later. I'll give you some relatability, but you know, his space. And he gave me his answer about how he handles things. And it gave me perspective. So grief looks very differently for a lot of people. And I just wanted to make sure that he was grieving, you know, properly, whatever that looks like for him. But the difference between grief and obsessing And what do I mean by obsessing? Because honestly, I've seen both sides of the coin, and I'm coming back from experiencing the obsessive part. And that's why this question, I say, is so personal, because I've lost people, and I knew exactly what I lost, and it hurt me in the exact way that it was supposed to hurt when you love somebody like you do. And I grieved it, and I figured out how to live afterward. I've lost someone and hit the point where I may or may not have treaded obsessing over losing them, and I saw it, and I brought myself back to the other side where it's just like grief. You know what I mean? Like the intermittent grief. Um, but in this lost season, I did notice myself in a pattern of being obsessed, not with my grief. No, that's not what it is. But I was obsessed with the loss. Like, it hit me so hard that it was so hard for me to be over. And it was something that I had to kind of work through alone, from the standpoint of we don't have a whole lot of friends in common. We got friends in common. We got family members that love, like my family love him and his family love me. To this day, that is my family. But I had to process and exist in these things alone, and it hurt. I never would be like, "Why'd you leave?" Like, none of that. Like, that's crazy. But it's not crazy. But that would have been just an outlandish thing to ask, because I don't subscribe to that. But I did obsess over, damn, he's gone. Like, damn, we'll never again. Damn, we can't. Damn, I don't have. You know, and I'm telling y'all, some days it has been paralyzing to me. It's been an emotional experience. It's been fueling. It's been making me wanna. It's been motivating, but the thing behind the motivation, the energy behind it has just been like fueled and just lost. And I've had my moments where I've had to like check myself and catch myself, even doing just a ritual where I release him and I cross him and just say, I have to be okay with this. Like, I had to do that. And it was because I kept calling his name out of need of his presence, and not really because I needed him to go and intercede for me as one of my ancestors or my spirit guides. Like, I wasn't even giving him a chance to get settled in on the other side. And I recognized that. And as his brother and as his friend, I released him from the hold that I had on him being between here and the other side, because I understand that he has more work to do than just with me and for me. So I had to train myself, like, even again, like trying to get a job in the hours where I was grieving, trying to mask it was different, like, I will replace something with work in a heartbeat. And I did that, and it didn't work. It did not work. But telling myself that I'm allowed to cry, I'm allowed to grieve. Um, Maybe not as frequently as I have been, and just trying to be better with that intentionally. But when it come up, it come up, and hey, you better hope somebody's crying like that over you. Damn it, my homeboy was amazing. Um, but do you know the difference when you cross the line between just regular grieving and obsessing? How do you recognize that difference? You know, when do you feel like it's too much? Do you have help with that? Do you have a support system? Are all of your friends equipped to be strong for you when you can't in that regard? Do you have the space for yourself to not be the strong friend and just grieve, even when it's alone? You know, I want you to think about that. And if you're not comfortable with your grief, how you're grieving, your process, how you're being treated while you're grieving, really assess how you can change that. What and who needs to go? What and who needs to come into play for you? How? Because when you're grieving, you have to be very, very clear. And even though it's not easy to be clear on what you need, it is easy to be overly ambiguous and just say, I'm okay, and be lying. And be lying, and then you never get seen and you never get heard, and nobody ever gets to love you in the way that you specifically need to be loved through this thing. And it's not a linear experience, That experience is not like a monolith. There's no way to grade it, like you just got to be kind to yourself, but you also have to allow people to be kind to you and give them some grace if they've known you before you've had this experience, because they don't know you during or after this experience if you don't tell them. And do your best to try to make your grief good grief. Hold on to those memories. Keep those things going. Now, this has been episode 6 of Strong Friend Podcast. I am Myko Glaze. You can follow the podcast on YouTube, Spotify. You can follow me on Facebook, Myko Glaze, IG at King Myko 83, TikTok Universal Myko 83, and thank you for listening. And I look forward to speaking with you guys soon. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to the Strong Friend Podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, and follow us on all social media.